Hello book lovers! I know I haven't made a video for a while and I don't really have an excuse, or I have. Lately I've been really lazy and I guess you could call it an excuse. Don't judge me, it happens. But at last I decided to make my, which month it is, April wrap-up video, and I read 7 books in April. I think that, considering how lazy I've been lately, that it is a successful reading month, or you could call it like that. So anyways, let's start talking about all those books. So first I read A Storm of Swords by George R.R. Martin, and if you've seen my April book haul video, then you know that I bought Song of Ice and Fire box set and I'm really in love with it, and I wanted to read the 3rd book before the 4th season started on the TV, and that is exactly what I did. So I really enjoyed this book and I gave it 5 stars, so there is nothing I would like to tell you more about it, but it's great and you should start the series as soon as possible. Then after that I decided to read this book. It is The Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge, I think. And I started reading, or better to be said, listening to this book because my friend gave it to me like an audiobook, and I really enjoyed that because this book is just perfect for the audiobook, and that way that dark tone of this book became even more enjoyable, if you know what I mean. But then I got bored with listening to the audiobook, and then I got this book for my Kindle and I read it. And I did like this book and I did enjoy it, and I read it really quickly. So I think that this book was good, but I gave this book 3 stars because I had some problems with it. If you don't know what this book is about, well, some people say that it is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and somehow that is true, but somehow it is not true. So this book is about this girl whose father decided to give her to marry this dark lord called the Gentle Lord, who lives in this dark, mysterious castle which changes its appearance all the time. And I really loved that. I really loved the castle and I really loved the story idea, but I had a problem with characters because there weren't as many characters in this book. I just wanted to see more of it, and I wanted to see more characters, and I wanted to see the character development, and also the world hasn't been described as much as I would like it to be. We get the feeling of this world, but we can't really say that we are sure that we know everything about it, that we really understand what this world is. And I had a few problems with that. And also there are a few references of the Greek mythology and all those people from the Greek mythology and of Pandora, Tantalus, things like that. And I don't think that it was really necessary, because I think that this story would be great without Greek mythology. I didn't really see the connection between the story and the Greek mythology. So I gave this book 3 stars, but I really liked it, and that cover is beautiful. I'm really sorry because I don't have the physical copy of this book, because that book would be so pretty on my shelf. So I'm not sure, but I think that someday I'm going to buy it and maybe read it again and see if I could understand this world better, because I would really love to. And I'm really looking forward to reading other books in this universe. Then after reading The Cruel Beauty, I decided to read Winner's Curse, and I'm not sure the author's name, but I'm going to put the cover here. And I heard about this book and that it was great, and it was supposed to be a fantasy book, like a young adult fantasy, and I didn't really like this book because when I started reading it, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I know nothing about this book, and then when I started reading it, I found out that it was about slaves, that there are two nations who are at war, or who were at war, I'm not sure, can't really remember, don't really care. But later on, I've also found out that this book is about forbidden romance. This is the only thing this book is about. Nothing is really described in this book. We can't really see the world building. We can't really see the character development. We don't know what this story really is about. It is almost like the writer couldn't decide what she wanted to write about, and that she only had to write and write, and I couldn't really see where this story was going, so I didn't really like this book, and it was too slow for my liking. It started to pick up at the final 50 or so pages, and I really hate that. But if I didn't like this book, it doesn't mean that you are not going to like it, so maybe you should read this book if you want to read some lighter fantasy with a lot of romance. After that, I decided to read Ruby Red by Kirsten Gier. I hope her name is pronounced like that. I read Ruby Red, and then I read the second part of the trilogy, Sapphire Blue, and I really enjoyed those books. I'm not so sure about time traveling books and movies and everything, but that subject could be really tricky to pull through, and I was really scared, but this was really good. And I really liked the main heroine, and she was really likable and easy to relate to, and I loved how she is so similar to all those girls nowadays and from our real life, her interactions with all the other characters, and how she took pictures from the past to show her friend, and how she took all those little things to bring her as a gift. And the time traveling aspect was really interesting, and I didn't really see nothing that was wrong with it. Everything was just right. This was so refreshing and different from the other young adult books that I've read. But the only problem that I had with the first book, and partly with the second book, was their endings, because in this book there is no actual ending. It was just cut off, and the story continues from the same place in the second book. I almost got the feeling like it was originally one book, but then it got separated into 3 parts. I did mind, but not too much. It could have been better if we had some actual ending of the first book, and then the second book continued maybe later on or something like that. But I like those books no matter what, so you should read it. They're great. And then, after reading the Ruby Red, I decided to reread Sweet Evil and Sweet Peril by Wendy Higgins, because the third book came out at the end of April. And I decided to read those books again because I really wanted to remember some things and to prepare myself for reading the third book. And I really enjoyed rereading these books because they're great. They're about angels and demons and fallen angels and 7 deadly sins, and they're nothing like I've ever read in young adult fantasy. Those are my favorite angel books because I don't usually like angel books. And those are the last books that I read in April. And then at the beginning of May I did read Sweet Reckoning, which is the third and final book in this trilogy, and I really enjoyed it because that book was phenomenal and it was a great ending of the trilogy. But I'm going to tell you more about it in my May wrap-up video. So that would be all the books that I read in April. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that I will be able to do more videos in the future. I have some plans and I have some tags to do and things like that, so I think and I hope that I will see you soon, and that would be it.